All right, welcome to our Expedition Northbound virtual classroom. Thanks for everyone for joining. I'm joined today with our Education Ambassador, Tim Barker here to help us go through our Expedition Northbound STEM packet, and in particular, one lesson. So first, I wanted to share my screen so that I can show how to find the Expedition Northbound STEM packet. So if you go to our Expedition Northbound landing page on the OCEARCH website, Expedition 2023 Expedition Northbound, and you scroll down to STEM activities, it's right underneath all of our team photos. Scroll down to Expedition STEM activities. You'll see 4 different STEM activities that our education team has developed specifically for Expedition Northbound. So any students who want to learn more about the area that we're currently on expedition during Expedition Northbound, you can use these STEM activities. So our first one is from wreck to artificial reef, really talking about all the shipwrecks off the North Carolina coast and how these make great artificial reefs and bring lots of life to regions. Our next one's all about ocean currents, and that one's geared through K through second graders. Our next one is how North Carolina's coast supports white sharks. So talking about the interesting characteristics off the coast of North Carolina, the Gulf Stream, the continental shelf, the shipwrecks, how all these characteristics make really interesting place for white sharks to be. And our last one, white sharks migration in the West and North Atlantic. So again, these are all on our website. You can click on them and they all come up. STEM activities for different ages. The first 2 are K through 2. Then we have our high school age level, how North Carolina's coast supporting white sharks. And our last one is white sharks in the Western North Atlantic migration. So learning about how these white sharks are migrating up and down the East Coast of the United States and Canada. And that's what we have Tim here for today, going to teach us a little bit more about these white shark migrations. And then we'll review how then you at home can learn more about the migrations by really diving deeper into the tracker and using the different features to learn more about when and where these white sharks are going. So I'm going to hand it over to Tim now to discuss the white shark migrations in the Western North Atlantic.
Yeah, so tracking the migration in the classroom has been a super good, accessible way for teachers to give students like hands-on science experience and really look at what these animals are doing out there. This is a really cool thing that Paige has pulled up here. Not only can you take a look at like where these animals are, what time of year, but you can take a closer look at everything else going on in the water. So we see a very high concentration right now of white sharks right up there towards North Carolina. So they're hanging out just outside of the Gulf Stream that goes through there. So you see that real warm water line going right offshore. So our team's hanging out offshore in that region, trying to meet up with these animals on their way back up north, closer to New England, New York, Nova Scotia, even up into the Bay of St. Lawrence, where they're going to spend a lot of their summer and early fall. And then in some of our STEM education materials, it can further then talk about why those animals are in their area. And when we do classroom talks as well, we can kind of engage more with those students and get their questions and talk a little bit closer to them about it. So Expedition Northbound is really all about seeing these animals where they naturally are. And honestly, it's only really in more recent history that data is there. So OCEARCH is getting that baseline data of where these animals are. And now that baseline data is there, they have a better understanding of where to go, what time of year to further study these animals. And this is all totally free to find, free to look at and enjoy and learn about on the website. Paige went through this is our homepage at OCEARCH, and under the expeditions page, we'll have expedition specific information. So talk further about, why the team is going to be off of North Carolina, what that geography looks like underwater, which is one of the reasons the sharks are there.
Yes, and then right as Tim was talking about the tracker, you see our team is currently docked in Morehead City, North Carolina, waiting out weather. We have a few more days left of expedition, but our team is currently docked today for weather, but hoping to get out at least one more day of fishing before expedition ends. And you can see some of our recently tagged white sharks, Penny, Ocracoke, and Ann Bonnie. We all tagged during the first week of Expedition Northbound. And I will give it over to Tim now to talk more about their migrations.
So really the reason that we want to take a look at migrations is understanding first why the North Atlantic white sharks are so important. And as an apex predator, not only are they an indicator species, so it's important to study them to understand the entire food chain, but they are the balance keepers of the ocean for us. So in situations where we are not necessarily caring for those oceans in the way that we should be, the white sharks are. So in places where you're going to find an abundance of white sharks, you're likely to find a much healthier population and balance in those ecosystems. So to identify those ecosystems and locations, you have to track their migration, see where they are. So that's really why it's important to track their migration in particular. And then, as I mentioned, like a lot of that baseline data is very recent history. This is about 10 years ago. This is just about everything that scientists understood about North Atlantic white shark migration. It's a totally empty map. There's no information there, but to kind of catch you more up to speed, here's a small selection of the white sharks that OCEARCH'S tagged in the North Atlantic. So I think this was about 23 white sharks. We're approaching 100. What's our count at right now with the current expedition? We at 91, 92?
Yeah, so current 88, 89, 99, 92 sharks.
92, yeah, and I believe 2 of those were caught in one day, which was a super fantastic day to hear about. Those double sharks days are super exciting for everyone involved. It's really cool to see. But yeah, this is a small selection of the data that's gathered, and you can see how much is going on there. It looks like a spaghetti bowl of information. But to look more importantly at what's going on with these lines, here's what scientists have been able to understand about why they're going those places. So let's start down south, down towards Florida. This is where a lot of the population is going to winter. So they come down to the warmer waters, A, because it's more comfortable, but B, because that is where their food supply is. A lot of the fish and the things that they're eating, of course, are going to be migrating down south with those warmer waters. So they're going to overwinter down towards Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, the Gulf of Mexico. And then as the water starts to warm up, they can move further north. So they're moving northbound. And this is where a lot of our white sharks are being seen right now. North Carolina, southern New England. There's even been a few sharks that are already pinging on the tracker as far north as Nova Scotia. These are some of the largest sharks. So some of the more adult sharks, closer to 13, 14 feet long, they can handle those cooler waters, and they're looking for a meatier food supply. And then what we do understand now also is the nursery. So not necessarily where these white sharks are born, but where the pups are going to enjoy their first days. This is right off of Long Island, New York, closer to Montauk. So this is right outside the Hudson River Basin, where a lot of those nutrients for the mountains flow out into the ocean. It has a healthy small fish food supply for these young sharks. So this is where they start to grow. And then they're going to move up into New England, Nova Scotia's. They grow larger and need a larger food supply. The biggest mystery still is, where are these animals mating? The current information is suggesting that it's going to be in the Carolinas, and we'd really like to figure that out in the near future. So that's really exciting. It's one last piece of the puzzle that we need to solve. So this is just in the last 10 years that the scientists out there have been able to really understand all this. This is a more broad global look. Right now, OCEARCH is focusing on the North Atlantic population. There's populations of white sharks all around the world. This vessel has already been to Australia, South America, South Africa, and right now just focusing on the North Atlantic to understand, the group that's here where we live. And in the future, it'd be great to pair with scientists, educators around the world to study other white shark populations. So that'd be exciting to really understand all of them. And again, the whole point of that is really returning the balance and abundance to the ocean, because if we protect these white sharks around the world, they protect our oceans with us. So they're a very key animal for that reason. And the Shark Tracker is really one of the best resources that we offer. It's really fun getting out there and doing public events. Like most recently, some of the team was down in South Florida at the Tortuga Music Festival, where a lot of ocean conservation groups come out, and we're of course there. And we need a lot of people that already have the Shark Tracker app, which is really fun, because then they're like, oh wait, that's you guys. And we meet people that have had this app for years, and they have favorite sharks, and they kind of talk to us about some of their favorite sharks and everything. And it's really fun for them to be able to put like the organization with that app and be like, yeah, that's what we're doing. And, kind of show them more ways that they can get involved and really helping them understand why that app is important. And in the classroom, it's really essential. And a lot of what we offer in the STEM curriculum goes back to this Shark Tracker app. There's a lot of fun activities. And it's not just for science. It's not just for biology. There's mathematics involved. So you could do plotting, navigation of these animals. And then there's more fun activities for some of the younger groups. We saw a classroom do an interview with a shark, where each student in the class actually picked an animal on the app, looked up all the information that's available through the app, the size and where it went and where it was originally studied, and more information about the animal, and then presented it to the class, which is a really fun activity. So there's really a broad spectrum of information available, from young students all the way up through high school and really even beyond. It's all super accessible. And if anybody ever wanted to do like a research paper or more information on sharks, it's all there for them as well. So the app is just a really great resource, that goes really alongside all that STEM curriculum on the website.
Yes. And as Tim's talking about the tracker app and on desktop version as well, I wanted to pull back up the white shark migrations in Western North Atlantic STEM activity. So this is all of the migrations patterns that Tim kind of went over, all of these. And at the end, really the lesson is to dive deeper into the tracker. So like Tim said, there's a wealth of knowledge on there. And the tracker has all the different information with the different layers, where people are then able to learn more about these animals in real time. So our science team is getting these pings in real time, just like everyone at home. So when Ann Bonnie pings off the coast of North Carolina, we're getting that information at the same time you all at home are. So you're really learning alongside our science team here. And that's really important, is that we wanted to include everyone in the journey and teach more people about sharks. And that's one of the reasons we have the app that pings in near real time. And then I just wanted to give a little bit more information as more people are joining about Expedition Northbound specifically, since our team is still on Expedition Northbound. I just got back from Expedition a few days ago. I had to leave Expedition early this time, but our team is still currently docked in Morehead City, North Carolina. When we're on Expedition, we have our ship being located as well. So anytime you see this red anchor on the OCEARCH Global Shark Tracker, that is our ship, and it most likely means we're on Expedition in the moment. So we're currently docked in Morehead City. There's been really rough weather the past few days there, but we were successfully already able to tag 4 white sharks on this expedition. Our first white shark was white shark Umi, which was a 13-foot female white shark. She was named by our partners at Yamaha Rightwaters. Umi means Mother Ocean in Japanese, and that's why she was named that. Umi is not on the shark tracker yet. We haven't got a great ping. So once we tag an animal, we wait for a quality ping before we put them on the tracker. And that means that the animal has to come to the surface with satellites overhead and really give a good location ping. And unfortunately, we haven't had a good location ping from Umi yet, but we could have one at any point. Remember, sharks do not need to come to the surface, and some sharks go to the surface more than others. So we're hoping to get Umi up on the tracker soon, but we haven't yet. We'll announce on social media once we get her on the tracker. But then we also were able to tag Ann Bonnie, this white shark right here, female 9-foot white shark. She was named after our famous female pirate, Ann Bonnie, who was known to cruise through the waters of the Outer Banks back in the time with Blackbeard. We also have a male subadult white shark named Ocracoke. He was named for the island of Ocracoke, which is right off of where we were fishing, and found him. He's still in that region. And then we have white shark Penny, which was named for our friends at Salty Penny campus in Morehead City, who have helped us out with multiple projects. So those are the 4 sharks that we've currently tagged in Expedition Northbound. As you can see, 3 of the 4 sharks are already pinging on the OCEARCH Global Shark Tracker, and they're staying in that region that we were able to tag them in. And we have a few days left of Expedition Northbound, so hopefully we'll get another day of good weather for us. It ends on May 4th for this week. So we're praying for good weather and hoping that we'll be able to get off the dock soon. But our team is currently docked in Morehead City. And now I just wanted to allow anyone, if you have any questions for our team, feel free to send them in the comments and we'll try to answer them in this live stream. And also we can try to answer them later throughout the day. And as we wait for questions, I just wanted to share more about our education program. I'll do high level and I'll let Tim, since he's one of our education ambassadors, talk a little bit more. But you can learn more about our education program on our website. We have STEM curriculum for all different ages. We're also in the process of updating our curriculum, so we'll have more curriculum soon. And if you have any questions, such as wanting to do something specific for your classroom, you can always email our team at education@OCEARCH'S.org. And I'll let Tim tell a little bit more about what we do with classroom virtual visits.
Yeah, the virtual visit's been fantastic. This year, we've already been all across North America, which has been really fun and exciting. We've been in classrooms in Alaska, up in Canada, down here in Florida, where I'm based. I mean, all around the place, and all different ages and all different backgrounds. And that's been really fun to see. And a lot of these teachers have been using these STEM materials and including in the class. So then kind of when I go there and I start to talk to these students, they already have a foundation of why white sharks are important, who OCEARCH is, and really the whole point of studying these animals, which is really cool because then we can kind of dive deeper into, you know, what that team is doing on the platform when it has a small limited time with these animals, which has been fun. And a lot of these kids have some really cool questions as well. You know, a lot of these kids are asking pretty detailed questions about like, why are you guys swabbing the mouth of sharks and everything? And then you can explain to them like, hey, these animals have a unique bacteria. And if we study that, you know, we could eliminate different infections and maybe learn more about ourselves. So it's really cool to see teachers using those stems and then following up with classroom presentations. But there's also situations where teachers, you know, aren't necessarily including those programs in their class, but then they end up wanting to do that after presentation because they find that the students are getting so much more engaged and interested in these animals and the science behind it and everything. So it's been fun doing the virtual classrooms. Had a lot so far this year and starting to see it kind of expand into more classes and, you know, seeing more students and larger groups and more teachers. And it's good to see education on the rise and growing.
Yes. And so now I'm going to answer a few questions that have come in. So Rosie's Gym asked about white shark Jekyll. Jekyll was not a white shark that we were able to study on this expedition. We actually studied him last expedition during Expedition Southbound, which took place late November, early December. Jekyll was tagged on December 9th off of Jekyll Island, Georgia, which is why we named him Jekyll. And so on that last expedition, we were really trying to learn more about these animals as they were making their migration south for the winter. As Tim talked about earlier, we're kind of towards the end of the winter residency and have many of our white sharks are coming off of the North Carolina coast right now for spring staging right before they head north for the summer to those areas like New England and Nova Scotia that Tim mentioned earlier. So our current expedition is actually trying to study these animals right before they leave their winter residency. And that's why it's called Expedition Northbound, because these sharks are about to be northbound. And we actually even see Simon already is northbound, currently off of, let's see where exactly he's off of. We're in New Jersey. So he's one of our first animals that's actually made their way northbound. But all of these animals kind of staging up here, waiting for that warmer weather, and we'll be heading north soon. And then we had another question about their migration on if they go into the Gulf of Mexico, and they do. Tim mentioned it earlier when they're in their winter residency off of the southeast of the United States. We're seeing them from North Carolina all the way into the Gulf of Mexico. So you see, these are a couple sharks that haven't pinged in a little bit, and their last pings were in the Gulf of Mexico. So we do see quite a bit of white sharks going into the Gulf of Mexico during the winter.
Yeah, they get really far tucked in there. I actually I sent my friend a picture from the shark tracker who lives in New Orleans, and I was like, hey, have you met my buddy Scott? He's hanging out just outside of the Mississippi there. And then there's also sharks that go over towards Texas and Mexico. And they really get in there. I mean, these animals travel thousands of miles a year. It's really incredible.
Yeah, so this is an example, white shark maple. She spends lots of time in the Gulf of Mexico. We tagged her in September of 2021, so we've had 2 winter seasons with her, and both seasons she spent a majority of her winter residency in the Gulf of Mexico.
And she gave us a good handful of pings just a few weeks ago. It was really fun because when some of the team was down in South Florida, we were kind of watching Maple come around the corner of Florida there and head north. So that was kind of fun to see, like as we were meeting people and talking to people, being like, yeah, we've got Maple cruising by right now. And that's a shark that Paige and I, we both got to see her in person up in Nova Scotia. She was a really wonderful animal. It's kind of fun just following up with them and seeing where they are, especially when they ping a lot. That's fun.
Yeah, so like we've said, the OCEARCH'S Global Shark Tracker is a huge tool to be able to use in the classrooms or at home to continue to learn different skim skills. And you can learn more specifically about our expedition during our Expedition Northbound STEM activities, or on our education landing page has more information and more activities as well. And if you have any information, always you can email education@ocearch.org. So thank you all for joining us today and letting Tim kind of talk a little bit more about our education program and white shark migrations. Again, if there's any other questions, we'll try to get to them in the comments throughout the day. And until then, let's hope for better weather and our team can get off the dock off in North Carolina and have a successful rest of Expedition Northbound. So thank you all for joining us and have a great day.